Butter chicken is one of the most popular dishes in the world for a reason. And once you make it at home, you'll realize exactly why that is. I'm gonna start off by making some rice, because this can happen in the background while we do everything else. I'm using basmati rice, which I'm gonna start by rinsing off. There are all different kinds of reasons people say to rinse off your rice, but I think the biggest thing for me is that it sits in a pretty loose bag and collects all kinds of dust and who knows what while it's on its way to you. So that's why I'm rinsing it off in this big glass pot. Hopefully it gives you a really clear visual of what's on your rice before you rinse it off. Once I'm happy with how that looks, I'll bring in my rice maker, give it one last little shake, and then drain off my rice. Most people say to rinse it until the water runs clear, but I think this is more than enough, and into our rice maker we go. As most of you know, I don't normally like to measure when I cook, so cover this with some water, and I'm gonna use the pinky method, where I go in right up to that first line on my pinky, and if I measured correctly, that should make us some really good rice. This I'll sit off to the back, and we're good. Something about the song makes me want to make more rice. Next up, yogurt marinade for our chicken. Butter chicken starts out with this spiced yogurt marinade, and it's really where all the flavor begins. We start with just a little bit of yogurt. I'll make sure I scrape off every last bit. Then we'll go in with some dried fenugreek leaves. These leaves right here have this sort of sweet and nutty flavor, and butter chicken won't taste right without them. Then I'll go in with a few scoops of Kashmiri chili powder. That's what's gonna give us that beautiful bright orange-red color in our butter chicken. Next, a little dried coriander, then some dried cumin. That's got an incredible smell to it. Some garam masala. That kind of provides that sort of classic curry flavor that you might think of. And here we have this ginger garlic paste. This is ginger and garlic blended together. It's a foundation of Indian cuisine. Then I'll go in with a sprinkle of salt. Then I'll cover this up with some oil. That helps to carry all that flavor that we've just added. And last but not least, a nice squeeze of lemon. Got more on my shirt than I would have liked, but now I'm gonna smell good the whole day. As I whisk, you'll see a nice light orange color start to show itself. And then for now, we can move this off to the side. Since we're chopping up some chicken, I'm gonna bring in this extra cutting board here. I'm using this wet towel underneath so that it doesn't move around on me as I cut. It makes things a lot safer. I'll grab my chicken from the fridge. You can wear gloves here if you want. You don't have to. I just kind of do it based on how I'm feeling that day, and I felt like putting gloves on. You can't really go wrong with this recipe. There's no exact specific measurement you really need to do here since it's gonna cook for so long. So don't stress or worry about your chicken not being cooked all the way through. It's gonna cook. It's just a question of what kind of texture you want when you're eating it. And you can even leave some pieces in different sizes. It's always fun to mix things up, play around with different sizes and shapes and textures when you're cooking. Makes food more exciting. My aunt is actually Indian, so anytime I'm cooking any kind of Indian cuisine, I often think of her because she's the real champion in the kitchen when it comes to Indian food. Maybe I'll send her a picture at the end and see how I did today. So the nice thing about using that additional cutting board on top of my main cutting board is I can take one of my gloves off here and then I can dump my chicken straight into my marinade bowl, just like this. Notice I still haven't contaminated anything yet. I can even pull this whisk out, this other glove off, and this all goes away in one nice mess all by itself. And our board's clean. Look at that. Mom, if you're watching this right now, aren't you proud that I'm so neat and clean like this now? You probably never thought that would happen, did you? When marinating my chicken, or any kind of meat for that matter, I do like to get in there with my hands, so I'm gonna toss on new gloves. I just think something about being able to press and actually feel the meat makes it a lot easier to get full coverage. You can make absolutely sure that everything has been moved fully around instead of just sort of guessing when you're using some kind of utensil. Get all the way to the bottom, flip it over on itself, kind of continue that motion all the way through to make sure that there is full coverage across all of that delicious chicken. And just give this chicken a little massage. Get it fully coated. You'll start to really smell that flavor that you're working towards here. It's incredible. Cooking Indian cuisine like this at home is one of the most amazing things that you can cook in your own kitchen because the flavors that you can unlock are truly special. It is some of the best food out there. Once that's mixed up, I'll take off my gloves. Then I'll cover it up with plastic wrap and into the refrigerator we go for as long as possible. The longer you sit it in the fridge, the more that flavor will develop. I'm gonna go for about an hour or two, but if you can do it overnight, even better. Once my chicken's done marinating, I use a little movie magic so you didn't have to wait. I'll shift it over towards my burners, and you'll want to get yourself some kind of heavy bottom pan. It can be cast iron, it can be stainless steel. The key is that we want to mimic that super high temperature of a hot Indian tandoor. I'll turn my stove to the highest temperature that I can get and then grab some oil. Remember, you'll want to use oil that has a really high smoke point. We're going to be cooking at nice high temperatures to get that nice char that we're looking for. And then I'll add in some of that oil. I like to do a nice full layer at the bottom of the pan, basically just enough where it fully covers the bottom there. And then just watch your oil. When it starts to shimmer and look like it kind of has different dimples in it, get ready with your chicken, and I think we are ready. Yes, we are. That's the sound we're looking for. And now, notice that I'm leaving some space between each piece of chicken. You don't want to overcrowd your pan. You're gonna have to do this in batches. If you put them too close together, they will steam. And we don't want them to steam. We want them to get a nice, deep, golden brown char, similar to what would happen if you cooked it in one of those classic Indian ovens. I'm at the highest temperature that I can be here. And once everything's in, I'm going to then press it down. These are just heavy pieces of metal that are gonna push that chicken down to get an extra nice sear. And then I leave it. Once I've let this go for about a minute on the first side, I'm gonna grab these off. Don't grab them with your hands if you're using weights like this, because you will burn your fingers. And then I'm gonna flip them over in the order that I laid them down. Look at that sear that we're getting on this chicken. That is what you're going for. What you're seeing here is not just color, that is flavor. I care about the color, but the flavor is what I'm going for. And then back on. There's oil splattering everywhere. You can probably see it all around my stove, but that's okay. I am always okay with a small mess in exchange for delicious food. It's a good trade. Once we've gotten a nice sear on the other side, I'll lift these off. The goal here isn't to cook the chicken all the way through. As long as we get that sear, we've gotten what we need here. So I'll move these off to the side in a bowl to rest. Now I'm okay with them starting to sort of steam and rest all together here. These aren't gonna be crispy and golden brown when we go to eat them later, because they're gonna sit in that delicious creamy butter chicken sauce. Looks like my pan's getting real hot, so I'm gonna turn it down a bit and then back down. Sometimes it's a simple sacrifice. You gotta set the fire alarms off in exchange for making tasty stuff. I wish it weren't the case, but that's what happens. Weights back on. If you don't have any of these, by the way, you can always look in your cupboard. Even if you find some small, heavy bottomed cast iron or heat proof pot like this, you can sit that on there and that can weigh it down too. Anything can work. The simple idea is that you want to get really nice even contact between the pan and the chicken. And that's what gets you that nice crust, that nice sear. Now we can go with a flip again for these. Getting that really nice dark char now. I'm really happy with this color. I can turn down my heat just a little bit because now things are getting real hot, but this is what we want. So don't be tricked into thinking that any of this is burnt. That is exactly what we are trying to get. Last batch. Stay with me here. One last thing that's important. Look, I'm laying the chicken away from me each time, okay? Every time I put it down, anytime there's hot oil, lay the chicken away from you. You don't want to get splattered with hot oil. I've done it a lot of times and it really hurts. Eventually, you're going to get used to all the little splats of oil that hit your hand and your arms when you're cooking. Feels like a bunch of tiny little pricks and pinches. It still doesn't feel great, but you get used to it. So be careful. Flavor, flavor, flavor. That looks like we're cooking in a tandoor. Woo! There we go, now we're cooking. That looks cool, but it's also getting some of that smoky, charred, fiery flavor in our food. There's real flavor in these flames. I'm gonna turn my stove off, grab my chicken. We made a mess, and that's okay. Forget about the mess, look at the chicken. If your chicken looks anything like this, and especially smells anything like this, you should be super proud of yourself. That is going to make for some incredible butter chicken. Now we need to make our sauce. This sauce is awesome. This is what makes butter chicken butter chicken. Our sauce, being called butter chicken, starts off with some butter. It'd be very difficult to make butter chicken without it. Depending on your stove, I let this melt down between medium and medium low. And then we'll start with our dry spices. The first is Indian cinnamon. Isn't that cool? How it literally looks exactly like a tree bark, which is what it is, but I love actually seeing it like this. Then we've got black cardamom. This is gonna be really nice and smoky. And next, a few classic green cardamom pods. And then finally, just a couple of whole cloves. Our goal here is to move these around and get them nice and aromatic. We wanna let those flavors bloom in the butter. Fat, such as butter, is a really good carrier of flavor, which means it can basically take on and hold all of that flavor to then spread it around the rest of your dish. I'm noticing on the bottom here, my butter was very lightly, barely starting to get some sort of lighter brown color, which not necessarily what we want here, although it's gonna taste pretty delicious. So I'm gonna turn down my heat just a touch. I'll add in some more Kashmiri chili powder, a little bit of ground cumin, and a little more garam masala, where I'll then quickly stir it and toast that up as well. Look at the color there. Look how foamy it gets. This looks like the top of a nice foamy fresh espresso right now, but it smells so much better than that even. Then I'll go in with more of that ginger garlic paste. We wanna quickly stir that up. Don't let things get too dark. You don't want anything to burn here. I would say this is just about as far as you should push it. At this point, I've turned my heat completely off, but those nice toasty golden brown colors are exactly what I'm looking for right now. And then I'm gonna come over here with my green chilies, which I'm then going to slice right down the center to split them open and kind of open up that flavor. And these will go right in as well. After those, I'll add in my tomato puree. Since there's so much liquid in here, it'll stop the burning at this point, which is good. And I'm also gonna add in a splash of water and then give that all a nice mix. Now is when we'll also wanna add a nice few pinches of salt. Use your best judgment, however much you think here. And now I'm just gonna gently stir this. Keep a nice close eye on it as it comes up to a gentle gentle simmer. We're not looking for anything aggressive to happen here. We're just trying to bring this up to a nice warm temperature. And once it starts to lightly bubble up like this, we're gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes to develop some of that flavor. The fat should bubble up and almost start to rise to the top, and that is a sign that things are going well here. So our next step now is to add in our cream, and then if needed, depending on how tart your tomato sauce was, just a few tiny pinches of sugar to balance everything out. Stir that up again, and you'll start to see that classic orange butter chicken color. We're getting closer, but now we need to let this sit for about another 10 minutes to let some of that fat separate once again. I know it feels like a lot of waiting, but good food sometimes takes patience, and you can see now the fat is once again separating. So I'm going to grab my chicken. Our chicken has been sitting there and resting for a while, so if you look at the bottom here, you can see there's all sorts of liquid. That's going to be packed with more flavor than you or I could ever imagine. The last thing I'm going to do though, before I add my chicken, is remove those chilies as well as all of my spices, because those are going to be really hard to fish out once there's a bunch of chicken in here. It's okay if you don't find all of them. Once those are out, it's time to add our chicken. Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to stir this around, coat it fully with that incredible butter chicken sauce. This is shaping up right now to be the most flavorful batch of butter chicken I've ever made. And once we stir that all up, I'm going to partly cover this up and shift it off to the side, just to finish cooking while we finish the rest of our steps. We'll start by tossing some naan into the oven to heat up. I didn't make these homemade. I felt like we probably didn't have time for that today, but it is fun to make homemade. Maybe I'll make it for another video. Next, we'll come back here to cook our papadum, which I love to eat with really any kind of Indian food. I'll add some oil to a pan and then fire it up over high heat so that that can get nice and hot. If you've ever ordered papadum at an Indian restaurant, you know it already comes cooked, but you can also buy it in a bag like this, where it comes as this brittle kind of cracker that you then need to fry to wake it up. While our oil heats up, I'm gonna bring in this baking sheet lined with a wire rack, and once it's nice and hot, we can fry. It happens really fast. Again, you can buy your papadum pre-made, but I like doing it this way just because it's kind of fun to do it on your own. As you can see, it's pretty satisfying and very easy. The other cool thing is that by the time I'm done making 3 of these, my naan should be nice and warm. Just shake off that excess oil and that's it. You pretty much can't mess these up. As a final step, I'm gonna add in some more dried fenugreek over my chicken. If you want to eat it now, you can eat it now. But there is one last little finishing touch that I like to do, which is to give it a bit of a smoky flavor. And the way to do that is through something called the dungar method. And what you do is you take a little piece of coal, just like this, and I'm gonna hold it over a flame until it gets nice and hot. I want it to be glowing red. I can probably even just position it where I can leave it there for a moment. I want to really taste that smoke, so I'm gonna grab my smoking gun and a butane torch. I filled this up with some apple wood. Part of the reason I'm going through all this extra effort is because to this day, the best butter chicken I've ever had was a smoked butter chicken. So now, anytime I'm making butter chicken and going through all the effort to get it to where it is now, I just want to do that extra minute of smoking it just to get that extra flavor. And on the butter chicken that we have here, a lot of that fat has risen to the top, which means that it's ready to soak up all that smoky flavor. Once we start to get that nice orange glow across the whole piece of coal, I'm going to take a small heat-proof bowl and place it down into my butter chicken, and then this is going to go straight into my oil, where it's immediately going to create all kinds of incredibly flavorful smoke. I put the lid on right away to trap all that smoke, but then I'm going to light this, and I'm also going to add in this smoke. I want extra smoke. Sure, maybe I'll set off my fire alarm. Who cares? I'll go give my neighbors some of this butter chicken. They would never be mad. Now, while I neaten up my workstation, I'm going to let this just sit here and smoke for a minute or two, and that's all we need. Then we can eat. I think that's enough time for this smoke. I don't want to overhype this butter chicken, but that is one of the best smells that maybe anyone has ever made in the kitchen right there. Let's grab this out. You're done, Mr. Charcoal. And for plating, I gotta be careful here. My chicken is fall apart tender. I'll add in my butter chicken. I'll make sure I get a nice even mix of the sauce and the chicken. Get my naan, hot potato. I'll get my rice. This rice has been sitting for a bit now, but it should be still totally fine because it was steaming in that rice maker. Just gotta break it up a little bit. It'll wake up plenty once it sees our butter chicken. Then I'll tear a few pieces of naan. This can be my sort of eating plate. I like to have 2 plates here. I got my sides there. Get some papadum as well. It's a totally different texture that you wouldn't have otherwise. Oh, that's the best. I could sit here for like 10 minutes and just do that. Papadum goes down. And then to finish off my butter chicken, I got this really nice thick cream here. You can finish off with some extra butter. You can finish it off with a little cream, whatever you want. A few fresh fenugreek leaves, a little bit of cilantro. And that is how you make butter chicken at home. I definitely think my aunt's gonna be proud.